Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to From the Gate podcast, where we bring you game, good time, and genuine conversation. I'm Lisi.
Ses.
Let's get it. Alright, y'all. So today we are talking about something that I've been hearing a lot about lately, and it has to do with fear. Everyone is scared of something. Everyone is scared of something. And then fear is just something, it's just a whole different level from being scared or being scary. You know what I mean? And so, in the world, there are over 500 named phobias. And they are separated into 5 different categories. There's the fear that's related to animals, so like spiders, dogs, insects. There's fears that are related to our natural environment. You know, there's people that are fearful of sounds like that, or just like certain noises. You better be careful. Someone might be fearful of your noises, huh? But there's fears related to your natural environment, so like heights, thunder, lightning, darkness. I used to be very scared of the dark. I still am low-key scared of the dark, but you know. Fears related to blood, injury, medical issues, social phobias falls into that category. Fears related to specific situations like flying, driving, riding an elevator. And then there are other fears where they can't really classify it, where it's like loud noises or drowning or choking. Those are the 5 categories that they usually separate phobias into. But when we talk about the fear zone, we're talking about a place where sometimes a lot of people, like myself, operate from.
No! God, please, no!
And it's either because it's hard to see what it is and so focused on what was and just kind of limiting yourself into this zone. We all experience different types of zones. You hear often about the comfort zone. You hear about the twilight zone. Well, today we are talking about the fear zone. We talked earlier about what different types of fears are, and I was kind of looking up what the number one fear in America is right now. And right now, the number one fear in America is government corruption, which I believe is very synonymous with the elections that are coming up this year. And so people they want to see change, but they don't know who's going to be the right candidate in order to bring that about. You know what I mean? So a lot of people are fearful. They're fearful for the future of their country. When you hear the word fear zone, Ses, what do you think of?
Freddy Krueger, Jason. What's the other? The Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman?
Probably like more so when I was like a little Jiren. When I was a little Gitz. When I was a little Godax. Moy Beaks. I mean, it just depends on the person. I don't know. I mean, I can't really. Like, it's your turn, sir. Nah, man, my mama said I gotta go home at 8 o'clock. No. Bring that. No.
Bring that ass over here, boy. Do you think fear is a real thing?
It depends on the person. Sure. I mean, to the extent of, whatever the person. Because people, I don't know, the word fear is more formal than, because, like, man, you scary. Like your friends call you that. Like, man, why you being so scared? But I think it's more so like the unknown. Like maybe you shouldn't be watching all those horror movies. Because when the lights go out, you scared of the dark. No,
Do you think that a lot of people operate out of fear or operate out of being scared of something?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you have family members, your parents, because when you belong to somebody, or you're a child or in some sort of relationship, I think those things always come in very, they come very often, because they just know what's best,
Right.
and maybe they've experienced it before, and they don't want the person to go down the same road or experiencing those things that the person did.
And so when it comes to the fear zone, I feel like this is something that maybe I can speak for myself, but I feel like I was placed in a fear zone early on in my life as a kid because one of the biggest things that I feared was failure, which is something that is common across the world, as a lot of people fear failing. And
I
just
think
recently,
that goes to everybody. I think no one doesn't want to fail.
right,
I mean, everyone's trying to do the best, to be the best, and not disappoint. So, sure, it's part of human nature
right,
to have like doubts, to have concerns, to have worries, to have all of those things. It's normal for a human being to have these things. Some might just have more tolerance or more confidence
right,
than others. Sure, that's normal. You could either grow up to it or learn to face things. I mean, for me, I think it was just more because of the scary movies growing up. And, like, you have all the older cousins and you go watch all the, you're the youngest, so, like, you get the ones go do all the fake outs and, like, go do that and, like, hurry up before, so they would scare you like that, right?
right.
So I was like one of those kids. I always had to be the little errand boy. And I was like, oh, come on, hurry up, or else you can't go. It was like one of those type of deals. So,
Right. That makes sense. But yeah, I just feel like it was placed in me. I was placed in that fear zone early on, unknowingly. Like, just because these are things that my parents were taught when they were kids or whatnot. And so they're taught to do this way, this way, this way, this way, to live according to this tradition, to this cultural norm, to this, you know what I mean? And so,
now that we're talking about it, I take it back. I feared my father. That's where you develop, like, it's different when scary, you're tiptoeing, you're walking on eggshells. Like, my father had a backhand that'd knock my ass to, like, the middle of next month. And, like, sheesh. Daddy, don't hit me no more.
I promise I'm not gonna do it again.
Yeah, I feared my father. I mean, like, Pops was like, I don't know, it's just something about those Tongan men. They're like motherfuckers is small, but them motherfuckers roll a punch, boy. Like, the dude played rugby all the way till he was like 50 something. Pop, like, and that's where, like, a lot of, like, the sports came in. When you listen to, the parent, that's why I think I was able to become somewhat pretty good in sports. I did everything when growing up. I mean, from surfing, skateboarding, riding bikes, football, basketball, baseball, I mean, you name it.
Right.
It's taught to you, like, earlier on. What the rules are. Like, okay. My mom used to be, what are you doing? Don't hit them like that. Pops would just body slam. Like, jeez. UFC, WWF, you name it all. But yes, I feared my father.
I did too. I was scared of my dad too because I didn't want to get fussy for either not going to church or not doing good in school or not getting the grades that he expected me to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or being
That's
a little
normal.
goofy little child. Being a sneaky little children.
I think
But that's probably what taught me
normal.
how to be sneaky, was so I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But there are fears that we end up growing up with. And I feel like, for me personally, the fear of disappointing my parents, Growing up with fear, that's something that I feel was instilled in me as a kid. Definitely 100%. And a lot of times I find myself going back into that fear zone even as an adult. And so just kind of talking about do childhood fears still affect us as adults? I 100% think they do. So when you and I were talking earlier about no fear zone and talking about just kind of going into this topic, you had said something that really stood out to me, which was you need to look at the reality instead of looking at what you fear. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Because essentially you're talking about mind over matter. So why do you think it's so important to look at the reality instead of looking at your fears?
Well, if you have concerns of anything, I mean, it's normal.
Instead of looking at your fears and what you're afraid of, to look at what you have that's in front of you right now and to focus on what's in front
Well,
of you.
just focus with what you have and work with that. And then when you accomplish that, then you can build yourself a little room to go a little further.
Right.
So, appreciating what you have now or whatever you're dealing with, it's temporary and there's always a tomorrow, there's always another day, and everything doesn't have to be rushed all at once.
Right. And you had also talked about how you mentioned to me you need to be confident. You need to be confident in your decisions. You need to be confident in yourself.
Well, because like I just feel like sometimes like it's not like we're in Amazon in Brazil in a foreign country, you know. I don't know what I want this priest. Like, I mean, what is there to really be afraid of? I mean, like a failing. I mean, that's gonna come regardless, whether you're ready for it or not. I mean, that's just a normal cycle that comes to all of us, whether
Right.
we like it or not.
So how do you build your confidence in order to face your fears or to deal with your fears?
For me, particularly, it's understanding that things are temporary. It's not forever. So, looking at it like that, I think you'll be okay.
And I feel like that's important, what you were saying about confidence and having that confidence in yourself. Because you don't have that confidence in yourself, then that's when you allow fear to come in and kind of continue to, well, not fear come in, but you place yourself back in that zone of fear to where you are operating from there. And so, like, for me, for example, I had, maybe I still kind of do have a fear of abandonment, of people just leaving. And so I found it a lot easier to not attach myself to people emotionally and to just be like, oh, they're just there. They're there for me for now just to have fun, and then detach. So
Yeah,
that way
but
I
mean,
don't.
like, growing up, too, though, you have to keep all of these flaws or all of these, like, emotional things that you experience. It's normal, too. As a parent, I try to give my boys everything that they possibly need to know, what to watch out for, what to know, and like that's just normal. And if that child or that person's going through it, even in their adult years, and it's normal. Sometimes you just gotta figure things out, and that's where mind over matter comes in. You have to always ask, is it like life threatening? If it's life threatening, then you should really get some real serious help. Like, geez, even if it's not that big of a deal, it's okay. You could fail once or twice and figure it out. Part of growing, it's part of learning,
Right.
and don't keep doing it over and 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 over.
But back to what I was saying, and so just fears that we still currently deal with in our lives, and identifying them. And I really like what you were saying about having mind over matter, and just having that mindset of, okay, this happened, but this is what I'm doing to move forward from it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, one of the biggest fears that I still deal with is abandonment. That's one of my biggest.
And that's normal, though.
And so, the way that I'm starting to move through that space is I'm starting to take myself out of that fear, that zone of fear that I have in my life, by actively telling myself that
The more you hang around Ses, the more confident you'll be. Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know about that one, but you can call me Lalo, please, sir. But no, but he's right though. And so just like being around people that lift you up and build you up, and just knowing that things are going to be okay. And at the end of the day, you just have to work on yourself, and you learn how to face your fears and consistently face them, and not just like, okay, I
Now, if
kind
you're
of
going
did
to
it
tell me
today,
tomorrow
but
we're going to go skydiving, no. Thank you very much. I will watch you from down here.
see, stuff like that I'm not afraid of. Like when it comes to like doing adventurous things, I am not afraid
plane. I fly in the plane. I don't fly out of the plane.
I would jump out the plane.
No. That I wouldn't do. I think the most thing too that used to was heights. At our high school, they had a diving board that was, I think the thing was like 20 feet. And the swimming pool was like 20 feet deep.
Right.
And like, bro, they had one that was like 16, and then I think a 10, and then 20.
That's tight.
Everybody was jumping off that thing, and like, except for me. But for me, I have to like warm into it. You know what I mean? It took me a long time. Then you do the first one, and then next thing you know, hey, Michael Phelps, what are you doing? I was jumping backflips. Oh, man.
You always got to get the first one out of the way and done.
Well, because you see everybody else having fun, and you're over here jumping off the little jump.
The 10-foot one.
Yeah. It wasn't like a diving board where, like, you bounce off it. So it was just like a...
Like a flat plank,
yes,
almost.
Yeah, a flat plank. Where you just walk up and you just... Like you're in the Olympics.
But I feel like what you just said right there is a great analogy for when it comes to dealing with fear. It's just to face it head on the first time. And once you face it head on the first time, you find it easier and easier and easier to deal with the fears in your life.
Like this isn't too bad. Oh, I think I can do
You see
it.
that and I fought it. But, and so moving from, I asked this earlier. Ses, can you give me an antonym for fear? What did you learn, Ses?
What was it?
Calm and rest.
Oh, an antonym, huh?
Yes, sir. So moving from fear to calm, and just, that's definitely something that I am working on personally in my own life, is learning how to move from the fear zone into the calm zone, and learning just how to accept things as they are, and to move forward, and not to operate from a place of fear, but to start operating from a place of faith. Alright guys, so let us know, how do you deal with fear? What are some of your fears that you've dealt with that you want to share with us here on our podcast with From the Gate? Ses, where can they find us online?
All your social media platforms and www.fromthegate.com.
That's the one ton. Thank you for listening to our podcast. I'm Lisi.
Ses.
Deuces.
Yeah.